Welcome back, fans, to the ECHL Insider. I'm your host, Garrett Hunter, excited to talk about more exciting ECHL action. So let's get right into it with some scores from last week. The Wheeling Nailers blew out the Reading Royals 6-2 on Sunday afternoon. The hottest team right now, the Nailers, they have won 11 straight games. In the Mountain Division, it was the Kansas City Mavericks with a 10-3 whooping of the Utah Grizzlies Saturday night, in a very interesting situation that unfolded in Salt Lake City Saturday that we will show you at the end of this episode. And the Rapid City Rush had a 3-game series against the South Carolina Stingrays that did not go as planned, as the South Carolina Stingrays won all 3 of those games, including an 8-1 blowout on Sunday afternoon. And finally, the opening of Fisher's Event Center did not go too well for the Fuel. They lost 4-3 on Friday and 2-1 in overtime on Saturday night. So they will look to get their first win in the new building this week against the Allen Americans. Moving on to the top 5 games of the week, we will start in the South Division with the Greenville Swamp Rabbits heading to Jacksonville on Wednesday night to take on the Icemen. Really looking forward to this one. 2 teams close in the standings. I think Greenville, they had a kind of a tumultuous weekend at home, losing a close game to Orlando in the shootout, and then losing 1-0 to Atlanta. And from Greenville's perspective, some very controversial officiating in that 1-0 loss, but ultimately they look to just put that in the rearview mirror, get back on track now against Jacksonville, but it won't be easy heading to a very great venue and playing a very great Iceman team. At number 4, the Fort Wayne Comets head to Illinois to take on the Bloomington Bison Friday night. Bison have looked good over their last few games, but Fort Wayne also in playoff position right now in that Central Division. They look great as well. So we will see a very interesting Central Division matchup between the Comets and the Bison on Friday night. Next at number 3, the Tulsa Oilers play a 3-game series Wednesday, Friday, and Saturday in Boise against the Steelheads. Steelheads a little bit disappointed, I think, with how last week went. They lost 2 out of 3 in Trois-Rivières. They sit in 4th place in the Mountain Division. They're used to being at the top of the division. So they look to get back on track at home against a very good Oilers team. Tulsa is a team that's impressed me. Barely got into the playoffs. It felt like they went stumbling into the playoffs last year and got swept in the first round by Kansas City. Idaho, on the other hand, they got a sour taste in their mouth from losing in the second round last year, but more so what's happened recently. They've lost some games that they thought they could win. This is a very veteran group, a very experienced team under leadership of head coach Everett Sheen. They look to get back on the right track this week with 3 games in a row at home, all against a very good Oilers group. And at number 2, the Savannah Ghost Pirates will head out west to play a 3-game series against the Kansas City Mavericks Wednesday, Friday, and Saturday. Really looking forward to this game, the first ever game between Ghost Pirates and Mavericks. And really, Ghost Pirates have surprised me. They have won a lot of games so far in the South Division in 4th place. And the Mavericks, they're in 2nd place right now in the Mountain Division. They've looked great so far. So 2 teams that have never seen each other. How will they go about this 3-game series? Kansas City coming off a 10-goal performance against Utah. Savannah coming off a close overtime loss to Orlando. How will these teams be able to adjust to each other and play 3 straight games this weekend? Should be a great contest between 2 great hockey teams. And our top game of the week, the Toledo Walleye head to Coralville, Iowa on Wednesday and Friday, taking on the Heartlanders. Should be a great matchup between these 2 teams. Number 1 in the Central Division, Walleye. Number 2, Heartlanders. And the Heartlanders have surprised me probably the most out of any team so far up to this point in the ECHL. They have finished last place 3 straight seasons. We've talked about it in the Central Division. But now they're starting to find their way, I think. They're number 3 in the whole Western Conference right now. So they have looked strong as of late. Played Bloomington 10 games in the first month of the season. That was a big part of the season there, and they won a lot of those games against the Bison. So now you play a hard opponent now in the Walleye. How do you respond? 2 games at home. Will you be able to pick up 2 big victories against a great opponent in your division? Well, now make sure to subscribe to our channel below. And before you click off, we got a dandy for you for this week's Fight of the Week. Yes, folks, a goalie fight. I referenced it earlier in the top of the video. The Mavericks and Grizzlies were out of hand at Saturday's game. It was 9-3 at this point in the game, just Mavericks blowing out the Grizzlies. And the Grizzlies goaltender didn't really appreciate it, so to speak. So he got in the pushing and shoving, and as you'll see on the video, ultimately comes out to center ice to fight the Mavericks goaltender. So this is just an amazing fight. Hope you'll enjoy it, and click back on next week for another great ECHL update.
Callum back towards Crawford, who gets held up by Nil. Oh, they're going to call a penalty on Nilsson as Osman back to the far side. Nilsson can't believe it. McCallum pushes Nilsson in the back as Nilsson was yelling at Sidney Harris. Now Barcheski wants to get after it with Skumbert. Skumbert and Barcheski. Now Nilsson takes it up with Skumbert. And it looks like the goalie's coming out to center ice. Barcheski, and stopping at center ice is Osman. Nilsson and Skumbert are separated by 2 linesmen. I think we might have a goalie fight. Barcheski asks if he wants it. Are we going to have a goalie fight? We are! Barcheski's going to fight Osman at center ice. Jay Stevens is the E-bug. He might have to come in. Barcheski and Osman are going to fight at center ice. Now they move into the Kansas City zone. Barcheski, Osman with 2 rights. He knocks down Barcheski. Now he drags down Barcheski as he was trying to get back up. Jay Stevens is the emergency backup. He's going to have to come in. Barcheski looks like he's bleeding. He has to get help back up as the linesman's asking Colin Lee, the Grizzlies trainer, to come after him. Osman's going to go to the locker room, and the backup tonight is Jay Stevens, who's going to have to enter the game. Barcheski goes to the locker room. Adam Scheel might have to come back in. And we got some madness here at Maverick Center as Nilsson knocked down a Maverick. A call was made that Nilsson was yelling at Sidney Harris.